Alhamdulillah, today after a pause of a couple of weeks, we return inshallah to continue our studies. We've actually made a considerable amount of progress. Alhamdulillah, we're about 1/5 the way done or so. It's been a couple of months, so about 1/6 the way done with our course, inshallah. And I pray that your Ramadan was beneficial in some ways, and that you're able to at least appreciate some of the things that we've studied together. I know it may be a little bit frustrating, even after many months and many years of studying, there will still be moments in the Quran or recitation and reading of the Quran where things will not quite click. And that's the whole purpose why we have mufassirin, those people who explain the Quran. And when we get into Surah Al-Baqarah, for example, inshallah, which is going to be in a couple of months, we'll see moments where we're like, well, this doesn't quite fit what we've studied. Because there are certain things that are unique to the verses of the Quran. For example, when we study sentences, you have what's known as the subject and the predicate. Sometimes the subject is hidden, or sometimes a word is hidden. It's called mahdhuf, something that is hidden. It is inferred, or it's for you to think about and reflect about. So the Quran does beautiful things like that to make you really interact with it, to really engage in the recitation. So that it's not just a simple book that you're reading, but there are certain things that require thought, require contemplation, require intellectual stimulation in order for you to really benefit from the Quran. And you can get that immediately from the first verse, or from the first verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. And we'll talk about that later, inshallah, as a teaser. How there are different ways you can translate Surah Al-Baqarah based on the different ways you can understand and comprehend words that are hidden or not hidden. And that's one of the things that's beautiful about the Quran. So I pray that you were able, with the help of Allah Ta'ala, able to appreciate some of these things during the month of Ramadan with your own personal studies and also with the recitation in Salat al-Taraweeh or whatever. And I know some of you have expressed that this was a very unique Ramadan compared to previous. And I pray that inshallah, next Ramadan will be even more unique for us, inshallah ta'ala. Just a quick recap, inshallah, and I like to do that every week so that as we get to a mastery level of the material, I pray that every one of you has the ability, inshallah, to master this material and teach it further. And so, as a review, it's something to kind of keep in your mind. We should be able to put this book down and put it aside and think about naturally what is the natural progression of the teaching of the material from our minds. So, for today, inshallah, mashallah, we have lots of markers today. This is my Eid gift, right? So, just a little bit, hopefully they work, otherwise they're all brand new. Oh, alhamdulillah. So, just a quick recap of what we did. So the natural progression, what you want to do when you're teaching and you're learning, is the first thing you do is you learn about the types of words. So you want to go, oh, this is nice and thin, okay. So types of words. Right? So you want to start on the word level, on the basic single word level. So types of words, so we talked about them, the 3 types of words, and there are 3 types. There's ism, fi'l, and harf. Okay? So 3 types of words, and we don't need to go into details about them. And then when we completed that, we said, okay, let's focus on ism, because ism is the most common word. And fi'l comes with the study of sarf, and harf is coming now as we get into certain things. And harf will come because most huruf are what are known as awamil, huruf that cause other words to change in their grammatical status, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So we have ism. So now the next stage is to talk about each of these things individually. So ism is the most common, so we talked about ism. So with ism, when you study ism, you want to study the 4 major categories of ism. So what are the 4 major categories of ism? The first one is ma'arifa, definiteness. How do you recognize that something is ma'arifa, right? And then the second one is gender, or al-jins. The third one is plurality, so al-adad. And the last one is known as the grammatical status, or al-i'rab. Okay? Definiteness, or definite or indefinite, gender, male or female, masculine or feminine, and then plurality. Right? These are the things that we studied. And the last one but not least is grammatical status. And grammatical status is the pinnacle. It is the foundation of the study of grammar. So being able to recognize what is the grammatical status. So naturally, what do we go into? We went into the study of grammatical status. So, al-i'rab. Okay? And then there's 4 types of i'rab, but for the ism. So i'rab and ism, there's only 3 types. So what are the 3 types? Anyone want to say? Nasbun and jar. Alright? So these are the 3 types of i'rab. And what is the i'rab? I'rab is the study of the endings of words and how they change according to the function of the word in the sentence, essentially. So raf'an is basically the default status as we talked about. Right? Default. Or subject. Right? The subject of a sentence. Nasbun are details of a verb, i.e. adverbs. Right? And then jar happens because of 2 reasons. 2 reasons. What are the 2 reasons? Do you guys remember? The first one is, we studied it last time, the last class, 2 weeks ago. Mudafun ilayh. So the thing that is the possessor, i.e. Kitabullah, the mudafun ilayh is jar majrurun. Mudafun ilayh. Right? Mudafun ilayh. And the next one is what? Huruf al-jar. I'm just going to put harf al-jar. Okay? Harf al-jar. And actually today we talked about this last week, mudafun ilayh. And today we're talking about harf al-jar, which are known as prepositions. Okay? When it comes to like huruf al-jar or mudafun ilayh, and what was it? The second one we studied last week, mudafun ilayh. We studied the adjectives as well. So this is possession, and then we studied adjectives. موصوف التوصيف التوصيفية الجملة التوصيفية والمركب التوصيفية. Then it's helpful to know the Arabic terminology as well. But prepositions, for example, doesn't really tell you harf al-jar, tells you the function of the harf as well. So anyways, this is what we studied in terms of before. Once you've completed basically an essential study of the ism, the single word of ism, and all its characteristics, especially al-i'rab, then the next natural component, and we studied a little bit about fi'l as well. We studied that, we understood that fi'l has 3-letter roots, etc., and we kind of introduced that a little bit. The reason why we didn't delve into this too much is because it's an important topic in and of itself, and it's going to be coming in a couple of weeks. And this is actually the topic of concern for sarf. So sarf is an entire science. So we left fi'l a little bit on the side. In huruf, we'll study here and there. Okay? And they're important because you just need to memorize them and recognize their function. And like for today, for example. So then what we did is we started into compounds. So how do you put words together? Okay? And there's 2 different types of compounds. You have complete and incomplete. And complete are known as sentences. Incomplete are known as phrases or incomplete sentences. So these are known as sentences. A complete sentence and an incomplete sentence. Alright? Incomplete, we talked about 2 major ones. The first one is what? Tawsifi. Tawsifi. Tawsif. Tawsif. And the next one we talked about last week was also al-idafa, or last time, al-idafa. Al-idafa. Okay? So this is what? This is adjectives, and this is possession. How to describe an adjective and how to describe a possession. Now, another important, I guess you can say compound, but I'm just going to put it in the category of itself, and it is a type of compound, is harf jar, or what is known as al-jar al-majrur. And this is what we're going to study today, inshallah. Jar majrur. And this deals with huruf al-jar, also known as prepositions, prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases. And this is the focus of our studies today. Inshallah. So this is a very good recap if you want to put them on one page so you can kind of organize your thoughts when you're reviewing of what you need to cover. So when you turn to this page and you say, okay, ma'rifah. Okay, and you want to go through in your mind what are the different types of ma'rifah, jins, etc., etc. And this is helpful. There's a very good kind of a flow diagram that one of our other teachers has made, Abdul Sattar from Chicago, really kind of make a nice one-page summary of the Arabic studies. And when we get to that point, inshallah, we'll pass it on to you guys as a review. Okay? So go ahead and write this down, inshallah, and have it as a one-page review. And then today we're going to go into prepositional phrases. And alhamdulillah, we've already actually gone into them previously. So the concept will be easy. Today's, like I said in the email, today's focus will be less on understanding the concept, because I think it will be easy for us, inshallah, and still feel free to ask any questions if there's any confusion. But it'll be more focusing on recognition and memorization and practice. So inshallah, we'll focus on those things. So go ahead and write that down. Does anyone remember what an amil is? An awamil is the jama', is the plural version of it. So amil, awamil. What is an amil? What is the root word of amil? What is the root verb of amil? Amal, amal, right? What does amal mean? To do work, right? So it has a function. Amil is what type of, now amil, is it a verb or is it an ism? Amilun.
Ism.
Ism. How do you know it's an ism?
Tanween.
Tanween, excellent. So there's amilun, because it has a tanween at the end of it, it is known as an ism. And there's only two ways that we've learned so far how a verb becomes an ism. And there are many different ways, and there's an entire chapter to it, but these are the two most important ways. What's the first way? It's called ismul fa'il. Ismul fa'il. The second way is called ismul maf'ul. What is the ismul fa'il? Ismul fa'il, when you turn it into this pattern, this is a noun that performs that verb. And ismul maf'ul is the opposite. And now it turns the verb, meaning of the verb, into an ism, into an entity that receives the action of the verb. So if you say someone is amil, that is the pattern of ismul fa'il. Based on its name, you can tell this pattern. Amil is a noun that performs the action entailed in the meaning of the verb. So if the verb is to amala, as amala, which means to do or means to act, amil is someone who performs action. So when we talk about the amil in the Arabic language, technically, it means a word that performs an action. In the context of technical language, or what's known as, in the technical language, amil in the Arabic language is something that acts on another word and changes its grammatical status. So there are awamil, there are amil that change the word that follows it into nasb. And there are also amil that change the word that comes after it into jar. And there's only one group that changes the word into jar. And we'll talk about that today. So, awamil. So, awamil and amil. Amilun. From amal. Amala, to act. Right? Something that acts. Acts. In Arabic, it is something that acts upon another word. Making it very small so I can make it as clean as possible. Acts upon the word that follows. And changes its grammatical status. Its i'rab. Okay? And the most common example is today. Example is huruf al-jar. Huruf al-jar. And we've already encountered many of these huruf al-jar. Huruf al-jarri. Also known as, so huruf al-jar are huruf, so you know what type of ism they are, or what type of, word they are. They're huruf. And they're called huruf al-jar because they turn the word that follows them into the state of jar. That's simple. So in the name is the concept. So we've seen many of them already. So qara'tu, for example. Qara'a. I'll just put it simple. Qara'a. Ar-rajul. Ar-rajulu. Ayatan. Ayatan min kitabillah. Allah. Okay. So, as you can see here, qara'a. What does qara'a mean? Qara'a. Ism, fi'l, or harf. Fi'l, right? So, what does anyone know its meaning? To recite, right? And in this form, it means he read in the past tense. He read. Who is he? The man. Ayatan. What does ayah mean? Verse. A verse or the verse? A verse. Why is ayatan and not ayatun or ayatin? Does anyone know? I'm sorry? Yes, it's the object of qara'a. And so remember, the general rule of mansub is in what state? It's in the state of nasab. The general rule of nasab is that it details concepts of the verb. It details the verb. So the very first detail is who's receiving the verb. That's the first thing that takes nasab. The other details are other descriptions of the verb. But this is the one we need to know now. But we'll talk about them in more detail later. But this is the one we need to know now. Objects of the verb take on nasab. Okay? Anyways, we'll talk about that when we talk about fi'l verbs, okay? Fi'l sentences, the verbal sentences. Ayatan min. This is ism, fi'l, or harf. Harf. So we know it's not ism because it doesn't have the signs of ism, right? It doesn't have tanween, it doesn't have alif lam, it doesn't have gender, the feminine gender, and it doesn't have the state of jar. It's in the state of sukoon, or the state of, this is actually not in a grammatical state. This is mabni. But anyway, so min, it doesn't have those signs. It doesn't look like the pattern of fi'l that we've learned. So it must be a harf, okay? And remember I said there's two ways of recognizing a harf. Number one is that you try to rule out ism and fi'l. And number two is just memorizing them, because we know it's from what? Huruf al-jar. And we were going to know them today. So min is min, huruf al-jar. Kitabi Allah. Why is this kitabi? Why does it have a kasra on it? Because it is the majroor. So this is the jar, the thing that turns this into majroor. Jar majroor. Jar majroor. Forgive my writing, it's low. Can everyone see that? I'm move this out of the way. So, jar majrur. So this item right here, since I have all my multicolors, alhamdulillah, ideally you should have 3 colors, is what's known as the prepositional phrase, or jar majrur. Min kitabi Allah. Does that make sense? So once you understand the concept, and it's a very simple concept, you have the harf jar, the word that follows it takes on the state of jar. And remember, this is only one of the signs of the state of jar. Why? Because this is a single masculine ism. But if it was a jamma, mudhakkar, or mu'annath, if it took on, remember, we need to remember all the signs of grammatical states. And you'll recognize them with your readings. And we're not going to go through all of them again today. But min turns this into state of jar. The sign that this is in the state of jar is al-kasr. Okay? That's very simple. Go ahead and write this down if you haven't already. And then inshallah, the next stage is basically turning to page 80. And we'll go through the prepositions. Now the prepositions in this box is a good way of memorizing them. A good way of having them organized because of their functions, as you'll see in a moment. But I'm going to write it in a different way that helps me memorize them because it rhymes. So we'll go through this as well. And sometimes I forget them too, so you still have to always review and reflect them. But the most important thing is that you can recognize them when you see them, but memorizing them when you speak and everything will be helpful, inshallah. So go ahead and write this down.
Are these all the prepositions?
These are every one of the prepositions. All of these are huruf al-jar. There's 12 of them. And there's a special type of, I'm not going to talk about that, because I think I may have discussed somewhere else. Last time we talked about qabla and ba'da and stuff like that. They're called the special adverbs because they function. Remember, we talked about ba'da, qabla, words of direction. Those kind of, you may think that they're huruf al-jar, but they're actually not. If you look at your notes last time, if you look at the chapter on adverbs, on possession, there's a special type of words at the end of that section in that page. Let's find the page so that you guys are aware of it. As a review. There are words that look like they're huruf al-jar, but they're actually not. What page was it? 77? 76? Yeah, Morocco. Okay, so 76. Yeah, so 76, you look at adverbs of time and place, huruf al-zaman wal-makan. See, these, you may think that they're huruf al-jar. Actually, they're not huruf al-jar. They're actually ism. They're a type of ism, a special type of ism. They're an adverb, actually. They're called dhuruf. And they seem to function similar to huruf al-jar, and that the word that comes after it is in the state of jar. But actually, it's not. The word that comes after it is in the state of jar because it is mudafun ilayh. Does that make sense? So we have to recognize that subtle difference in the reason why. But it's not from huruf al-jar, even though you'll be tempted to think of it from huruf al-jar because it's directions, right? Ba'da, qabla, amama, all these things are directions. And huruf al-jar, many of them have similar type of meanings like min, ila, an, ala, etc. So just keep that in mind, inshallah. So knowing the difference between those two. Okay?
And this right here does not have a whole list of commonplace adverbs.
Maybe not, I'm not sure if it does, yeah. I'm not sure if it does. Those are the most common ones, I believe. Okay? So now, so you have on page 80 your reference for your huruf al-jar. And you can memorize from there, but I have a different way of memorizing them, which is not going to help you in terms of its meaning. Why? Because if you look at the end of the chart, you see what are known as huruf al-qasam, which are called words or letters. I like to say words because they're actually words, even though they look like letters. Of oath. So how do you make an oath? So we all know the common one, how to make an oath. I'll just put them here. Wallahi, right? We say wallahi. We use the word wa. Wallahi. Right? We say wallahi. Wallahi. This is called, I'm swearing by something. It's called half al-qasam. Swearing by something. This is not your common wa, like and. Wa means and, right? This is a different one. How do you know that it's this one? Because the word that comes after it is in the state of jar, whereas the normal and does not function like that. So wallahi. There's actually two other ways you can say wallahi. And the other one is what? Tallahi. 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 That's another harf al-qasam. It has the same exact meaning as wa. Wallahi, tallahi. And then there's another one. It is called billahi. Bi. And this is not be like with. This is a different be. Okay? So the be that's listed here, there's two bas. You see two bas? That's because there are two different bas in meaning. So billahi. Billahi. This is also harf al-qasam. And how do you know it's harf al-qasam and it's not the other be with, which means with? You just know by context. Okay? So all three of these are called huruf al-qasam. And they're grouped together in this chart. And my chart is a little bit different because I wanted to make it rhyme a little bit. So this is just mine for help if anyone likes it. I have min ila, an, ala, fi, ma. Right? Fi, ma. Ka. Wa bilita. So you see how it rhymes? If you put them into two compartments. Ka. Wa bilita. So you have min, ila, an, ala, fi, ma, ka, wa bilita. So ka, wa bilita. So I kind of made it in such a way that it rhymes. So it's a little bit different because this order, this is wa, bi, and ta. These are all huruf al-qasam, and lam is not a harf al-qasam. But I put it like this so that it can rhyme with ka. Okay, ka. And then ba, as you know, has two meanings. You have harf al-qasam and it has the word with as well. So what are the meanings of these? And this is really sheer memorization. Okay? Min. Who wants to give it a try without looking at their, based on what you've read, etc. From. What's the opposite of from? Ila, towards. An.
About.
An is about. So how do we use it in context? نتكلم عن الله. نتكلم. Or yeah, actually, ندرس. ندرس. This is a word that we've used before, I believe. ندرس, which means to study. And na means we are studying. ندرس عن الله. عن Allah. Who wants to translate this? Anybody? So nadrusu means we are studying anillah. So you put the anillah because of pronunciation, not for any other reason. Okay? So nadrusu anillah. We are studying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you want to talk about someone, you say an. Ala means upon. Upon. I'm not going to write it down because you have it. So ala. This is ala al-maktab. هذا الكوس, or I'm thinking of the proper word. كأس. هذا الكأس على المكتب. This cup is on على المكتب. It's physically on the maktab. Don't get that confused with فوق. فوق المكتب. فوق is a word as an adverb, right? It's one of those special adverbs which means above. So I can use either of them. But ala means it's physically upon it. It's physically touching it. It's on it. Ala. So ala, it means on. Fi. Meaning of fi? In. Alright? Fi. So this is in. So fillah. Fi sabilillah. It's translated as on the way of, or in the way of Allah. Or it's actually translated, how is it usually translated? Fi sabilillah. Or the path of Allah. I guess it's used in that context. Fi sabilillah. But fi gives the concept of within it. So fi. So al-ma'u fi hadha al-ka's. Al-ma' or water is in this ka's. It's inside it. So fi has that sense of being inside. Ma'a. Ma'a is with. So I can say ma'i hadha al-qalam. Hadha al-qalam, this pen, ma'i, is with me. Okay? I have it with me. Ka. Ka is actually a special word in that it is used for, it's called tasbih. It's used to make an analogy or to make a simile. Or to make a comparison between two things. So, هذا القلم, and it's usually used in poetry too. هذا القلم. اللون. لون means color. اللون. هذا القلم كنور الشمس. The color of this pen كنور الشمس is like the light of the sun. So ka is used to make comparisons, and there's examples, by the way, on page 81. So maybe I should use those examples. So, and of course I didn't put ka there. So ka is to be used for examples, to comparison. So I'll write it on the other side. I should have read it over here. And you can, if you want to go home and impress your wives, right? You can say this. You can say wajhuki. وجهك كنور القمر. كنور القمر. Right? Your face is like the light of the moon. So wajhun means face, but your face. So this word means your face, and you're speaking to a female. Kat is light. So that's literally how you translate it. It's light, and then whatever word comes after it takes on the state of jar. The light of the moon. The moon. Okay? Or we can even say kal qamar, but then it can be interpreted like your face is fat or something. I don't know. So kanur al qamar. So wajhuki kanur al qamar, and you can say it wajhuka, wajhuhu, whatever. So it's used. Ka is used to make comparisons, and it's often used for analogies and for poetry. So this is actually a way the Quran is used. And it's used in the Quran very simply. And this is an axiom of at-tawheed. Of at-tawheed. And I'm going to, do you guys want me to remove this or you guys have it down? No. Okay, I'm going to remove this example then.
The wajhuki? That's a wow, right?
I'm sorry?
The wajhuki? It's combined.
Yeah, it is combined. It's combined because this is what's known as a damir, which we're going to study in a minute.
No, is that a wow, the first letter?
Yeah, it's a wow. It's part of the word. Wajhun. So the word is wajh.
I think he's asking, are you connecting the wall?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have connected, but yeah. Okay. Wajhun. Yeah, perfect.
That makes sense.
So wajh means face. So an example, which is an axiom of tawheed or al-aqidah, is laysa. And it's a verse of the Quran. Laysa. Does anyone know the rest of this? By the way, that's how you're supposed to spell this. Ka mithlihi shay. ليس كمثله شيئا كمثله شيئا. I may be spelling this shay'an incorrectly. I'm trying to think of something. I may be spelling it wrong. I apologize. It just doesn't look right to me, but until I'll take a look into the actual shay'an. Okay? ليس كمثله shay'an. Laysa means what? It's a negative, right? Negative. So no, it is not. Okay? But it only makes sense when you put it together. And actually what's going on here is this should be coming first. So laysa shay'an kamithlihi. But in Arabic, as I told you, you can change orders to make emphasis. So the emphasis here, so shay'an means something. Something or anything. Okay? Anything. Anything. Something. Or something. Okay? So laysa something. So there is not something. Kamithlihi. Ka means like. Mithlihi. And this double. This is the powerful essence of this word. Of this sentence. Of this phrase. And who is it talking about? He means him. He. Him. Mithl. Okay, mithl means what? Resemblance. And ka is also used for resemblance. This is like this, right? Resemblance. So there's two words that indicate resemblance here. And this is talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you look at this, this is a very powerful statement of Tawheed. Laysa shay'an kamithlihi. There is nothing, there is not anything that even resembles the resemblance of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Resembles the resemblance of God. So it's like a double negative. There's no even possibility of anything being compared to God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then kamithlihi is brought forward to emphasize this concept. Laysa kamithlihi, there is no resemblance of the resemblance of God with anything. So this is brought forward where the translation is such, as I mentioned before, there is nothing that resembles the resemblance of God. Look at this, like pretty picture. I'm probably confusing for you guys, but there is nothing. Is not anything. I'm going to use it in this way so that you know that Laysa is this. There is not anything that resembles the resemblance of laysa kallahi shay'an. You can say that. There is nothing that is like Allah. Saka is like something, to be like something. Laysa shay'in kallahi. You can say that too. Laysa shay'in kallah. There is nothing like Allah. Right? But this is the tabligh, this is the balagha of the Quran. Laysa kamithlihi shay'an. So there's nothing that even resembles the resemblance of Allah. So,
I guess what I'm just trying to figure out, like, let's say this is being taught to non-Muslims, and their definition of this sentence specifically would be, "Laysa kamithlihi shay'an," would be, there's not anything that resembles the resemblance of Him, not the word Allah. We know it's Allah.
Well, this is taken out of context. So this damir, this he, is referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is mentioned previously in the ayat.
Right.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay. So, and we'll study in the next few minutes, inshallah, we'll study the concept of the ma'id, inshallah. And you'll understand what it is. طيب? So then you have kat. So this one requires the most explanation because of its special function. But these ones you know. Wa, ba, and ta. Wa, ba, and ta, which means you're swearing an oath. Ba can also mean with, to be with something. So Bismillah. Bismillah. And li. Li means to, or for a purpose. Sometimes it's for a purpose, but it means to. So, lak. So, I'm giving this pen, lak. I'm giving it to you. أعطيت هذا القلم لك. I'm giving this. I gave this pen to you, lak, to you. So the difference between la, li, and ila. This is like a related to direction. You're going towards something. Towards is probably a better translation of ila. Towards. Li is to give something to someone. It can also be used for possession. And so, when you go ahead and write this down, inshallah, out of these huruf al-jar, there are a few words that can be used for possession. So I'll write it down in the back. Meaning, how do you say, like if you go to the store, do you have this? There are 3 ways you can do it, okay? And we'll take a break until after that. Does everyone have this? It looks like. So, this is just a way of memorizing it. You can just write it on your paper. Min ila an ala fi ma ka wa bi ta. Or you can just memorize it as it is on the paper. Just know the functions of each of these words. And the most complex of those functions is the ka. But I do want you guys to write this down because this is important and it's part of something you'll study even in Islamic studies. Laysa kamithlihi shay'an. And you can kind of get an idea of how it's used. And that's probably better than the other example. This is great.
I think it's true for a lot before.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Oh, sorry.
This whole thing, I think, is supposed to stop.
This is we'll figure it out first. So how do you go to the store and say, do you have this? And this is probably the most common phrase used in like an Arab country. If you want to buy things, so you go to Saudi and you're there for Umrah, and you say, how do you say you have something? Do you have something? You know, do you have a book? So do you have Qur'ans? So what do you say? There are a few ways to say it, and two of them are with huruf al-jar. So the first thing you say hal. So hal is a quick little daily like life lesson of Arabic for fun. Hal is used to indicate a question. So you say hal. So you start with hal. This is like a question, like it indicates that a question is following. And then what are the two ways? You can say ma'a. Hal, ma'a. And then the damir is usually you. Ma'aka. Okay? You. But even if you just memorize this is fine. Hal ma'akum. Hal ma'akum. Whatever you want to say. Hal ma'akum Qur'an. Qur'an. Okay? And then whatever you want to say. And then the other way of saying it is the same thing. Hal lakum. 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 So la is also a word of possession. It also indicates to you. Hal lakum. Hal Qur'an lakum. But I have to say that this is less used, okay? And these other ones, you can also say hal عندكم. Inda is not a harf al-jar. Inda is an adverb of place. Indakum. Indakum. Whatever. Okay? Okay, so you can say these three ways. The two most common ways are ma'akum, hal ma'akum, or hal indakum. Inda means to have possession of, to be within, to be within you. So ma'a and inda. And I'm sorry, this is not lakum, it's fikum, asif. Had fikum. And this is less commonly used. Fikum. Fikum. Okay. So hal fikum, with you, right? To be in you. But that's like less used. Ma'a and inda. So inda is not harf al-jar, these two are harf al-jar, ma'a and fi. And so you can use this, like, you know, if you're looking for a book. هل فيكم كتابا من شيخ, whatever sheikh you want. هل عندكم, هل فيكم, هل معكم قرآنا بلغة الإنجليزية with English. هل whatever. So these are the ways to ask if someone has something in the store. Okay, this is a common thing. All right, go ahead and take a 5-minute break. When we return, we will introduce the concept of dhama'ir. Before that, do you guys have any questions? So I know I kind of went through cat very quickly, but it'll come with experience and with practice, inshallah, which is the hope. And I don't want to rush things, though. So if we want to cover these things more, we can, inshallah. Any questions, sisters? A discussion about ad-dhama'ir, and we've seen these a number of times as I was trying to hold back from the last examples as to how dhama'ir are used. And what are dhama'ir? Dhama'ir are a special type of isms. Okay, so they are an ism, but the difference between them and other asma, as if you guys recall, we listed a few special isms that do not take grammatical statuses. Or they take a grammatical status, but they do not show it in their pattern. And so that's known as mabniyun. Mabniyun means they do not change. They do not change how they look. Okay? But they do function in different ways, and we'll discuss that more thoroughly later, inshallah. That's a little bit more complex. But what is a dhama'ir? A dhama'ir is a pronoun. Okay, that doesn't really help much. What is a pronoun? You know, like, even when I'm studying Arabic, they're trying to make me remember to go back to grade school English to remember it, right? But it's there for those of us who are familiar with it. But what is a pronoun? A pronoun is used to replace a noun. It's simple as that. So that you don't say the noun repetitively. So if I say Tariq, as the example in the book, Tariq is my brother. Tariq went to the masjid one day, and then Tariq
prayed 2 rak'ah of sunnah, and then Tariq spoke to the imam for about 20 minutes, and then after that Tariq went to the mall, right? And then Tariq made istighfar because the mall is haram up here. So Tariq. It doesn't sound good, right? So what do? You replace it with a pronoun. So in the case of Tariq, say Tariq woke up for Salat al-Fajr, and then he went to the masjid, then he prayed 2 rak'ah sunnah, and then he did etc. etc. That's a pronoun. Pronouns are he, she, they, them. So in English we have a few of them. We have he, she, and they. That's it. So if you want to talk about pronouns as subjects, so these are subjects of sentences. Subjects. And then objects. The objects, meaning, you'll see what I'm talking about, is him, her, and them. That's it, there's six pronouns in the English language. I'm sorry, there's 2 more. There's 1 more. You. That's actually very important. And you is used for both object and subject. There's 8 pronouns in the English language. Oh yeah, I is important too, and we. So I and we. So, oh my lord. Alright. So he, she, they, them, you, I, me, we, us. Okay? So this is the subject, and this is objects. So what do I mean by that? Subjects of sentences, as we've talked about before, are the things that are the topic of the sentence. So he went to the store, she went to the mall, they went to the masjid, you are going to the etc. I went to the etc. Right? But him is like it receives the action of the verb, right? I went to him, or I hit him, I smiled at her. All the other ways where it's receiving an action or it's receiving some sort of possession, his book, her book, their book, them or their. These there is also one of them, but I'm not going to put it here. It's not an English lesson. So these are the different types of huruf, or different types of pronouns in the English language. Now in the Arabic language, it's very similar, but it's very detailed. And if you look at page 34, you'll see that, and this is chapter 5 by the way, you'll see this chart here. And this chart is going to be your lifeline for pronouns, for sarf, for the study of af'al, for the study of fi'l, of verbs. Okay? This chart is critical. And the study of the ma'ib is critical for the study of tasrif, or the study of sarf. Because to recognize this chart, if you memorize it, different people have different charts. For our class, we're going to use this chart, okay? Because visual recognition is important. So when we study a fi'l pattern, when we study a different pattern, it's going to match with its place in this chart. So how does this chart work? So does everyone understand the concept of pronouns? Basically, they replace nouns to prevent you from repeating those nouns, okay? That's as simple as that. So now the most important thing that takes the most amount of time, and you're not going to do it in one day, it's going to take some time, recognition, memorization, repetition, is recognizing this chart. This chart is critical. What's important to know before talking about the charts is that there are 2 types of pronouns. There is detached pronouns, and then there are attached pronouns. So detached pronouns are separate from any other word. They're not attached to any words, okay? Attached pronouns, just like they sound, are attached to other words. Today we're going to talk about only detached pronouns. Okay? Attached pronouns we'll talk about next time, inshallah. So if you talk about, you have to have this wonderful little chart. Broken down into 4 parts. 6 sections below. 5 lines. Okay? And you have the chart there, but I just want to explain the chart. And that's only my purpose. I'm not going to write the because you have the chart on page 34. So what you have is, the top part is explaining the singular, as remember we talked about these columns explain the plurality. So these columns are plurality. So you have single, dual, and plural. These charts talk about male, female, male, female. I'm sorry, these parts talk about the person. So third person, second person, or first person. And then they break it up into male or female. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So you have your third person, second person, and first person. For third and second person, you have a male version and a female version. For the first person, it doesn't matter. And we'll talk about why in just a moment so you can memorize it easier. So you have third person, male. Third person, female. Second person, male. Second person, female. And then just first person. And it doesn't matter what gender, because you'll see why in a second. Okay? This is the most important part. Recognizing the way the chart works. Because when you recognize and memorize the way the chart works, everything else will come easier, inshallah. So you always have single, dual, plural. And we go right to left because it's the Arabic language. Okay? Single, dual, and plural. Then, what do I mean by third person? Third person was known in Arabic as al-ghaib. Ghaib means ghaib. Ghaib means something that's not there, right? Something that you cannot see. So, Hassan is here with me right now. I can see him. Is that third, second, or first person if I'm speaking to him directly? That's second person, right? So what will I say in English? I'll say, can you go do this? Can you? I'm speaking to you directly. But if Hassan is not here and he's in the gym, I say, Hassan is in the gym. He is in the gym. Because he is third person now. He, she, they, them. That is all third person. But second person is you. And in English, there's only one you. You. Male, female, plural, doesn't matter. You. You can say you all, but you can say you guys or you. Can you please, if I say can you please shut the door? And I'm not looking at anyone. It can mean all of you. But if I'm looking at Justin and I said you, can you please shut the door? He knows that I'm talking to him. So you in English has all those meanings. Male, female, plural, single, dual, doesn't matter. In Arabic, you takes on, can be you male, you female, you two, or you all. Male, you all males, or you all females. That's how specific the Arabic language is. And the study of Dama'ir will allow us to appreciate beautiful things from the Quran. Because Allah Ta'ala goes into, He uses different tenses or different persons, meaning third, second, or first person, to bring life to the conversation, to the ayat. So if you look on page 35, and you see the example of how do you say you, al-hadir al-mudhakkar, you, single male. So how do you know when you're speaking to someone single who's male, you use the word term, all right? So you use the word cat. You use the word cat as attached, right? In Surah Al-Infitar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha al-insan ma gharraka bi rabbika al-karim. O human being. So Allah Ta'ala is talking about something out there, third person, etc. Then He switches to second person, meaning He's speaking to you directly. And He uses the word ka, meaning you as one single individual. And Allah Ta'ala often uses the masculine form, but even though a female may be reading it, it takes on the same meaning. So, ka, ma gharraka bi rabbika al-karim. What is it that's seducing you away from your Lord who's al-Karim, the generous? When you hear verses like that, and they happen throughout the entire Quran, Allah is talking about something else. He may be talking about a story, He may be talking about something else, and then He hits you with the verse that's talking about you, He's speaking to you directly, and you feel as though He's speaking to you directly. Ya ayyuha, in Surah Al-Fajr, Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna. O soul that is tranquilized. It's talking about nafs al-mutma'inna, a balanced soul. Nafs al-mutma'inna. When Allah says ya, He's calling out to you. So it's usually He's speaking to someone directly. In this particular case, He's speaking to a soul. Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya. Rabbiki. It's used in the feminine tense because nafs, remember nafs? The word nafs, masculine or feminine? It's one of those words you need to memorize as feminine, right? So when Allah is speaking to the soul, but it's Allah Ta'ala is speaking to your soul. It's as though Allah is speaking to your soul. He's talking about the Day of Judgment first of all. So He turns it into present tense, and He turns it into mukhatab. He's speaking to you directly, to your soul directly. Ya ayyatuha an-nafs al-mutma'inna. Oh tranquilized soul. Irji'i. Irji'i is a command, direct command. Return to me. Irji'i ila rabbiki. To your Lord. Return to your Lord. Irji'i ila rabbika. Irji'i ila rabbika. I'm forgetting it now. Irji'i ila rabbiki. So He's speaking to you directly. So Allah Ta'ala is talking about the hereafter. So He switches the tense. He switches to present tense. As opposed to future tense, He switches it to present tense. And as opposed to speaking to anyone or anyone out there, He's speaking to you directly. These are some subtle things, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll be able to appreciate, inshallah, by the study of the Nabi. So the study, third person. But if there was only you, just one word, you. We don't know if He's talking about all of human beings. We don't know if He's talking about him and me. We don't know if He's talking about me as a male or she as a female. We don't know what's going on. So that's why Allah Ta'ala, maybe the reason why Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala selected the Arabic language to reveal His revelation, last and final revelation. Because of its beautiful subtleties that one can appreciate, inshallah, when we recite it. So to recognize this chart and recognize what's going on. So third person male has its own forms. Third person female, own forms. Second person female, second person a male, female. First person, it is a male. If I say I, right, or we, you, because I'm speaking to you directly, you know if I'm a male or female, hopefully, right? So you know if I'm a male or female. So I don't need to specify my gender. You know, because we're speaking to each other directly. So first person, as you see, doesn't have a male or female version. It's just one together. Sometimes you'll see people put, anyways, I'll leave that aside. So third person. So third person, single, all the singles have their own unique ways, and all the plurals have their own unique ways. There's some patterns you see, some unique patterns you'll see, and you'll see them here. Is that these two are the same. Okay? Huma. Because when we talk about two people, it doesn't matter if they're male or female. Okay? Huma. So the dual are the same. You can say two males, those two males, you say huma. Those two females, huma. It's the same. The other thing that are the same is the same thing with dual, second person. It's kuma. So dual, I think the Arabs are like, man, we're tired of making all these specificities. We're going to just make dual and dual, right? So duals, these two duals are the same. These two duals are the same. So really, you can cut these two in half. So you really only need to learn two. And dual, plural, and dual and plural for first person is also the same. So we use a different color. If you look at it, there's only 3 unique words instead of 6 you need to memorize here. Then 5 here and 5 and then 4 here. So 9 plus 3, so 12. There's actually 12 words that you really need to memorize. But most importantly, you need to know this. Because when you know this, when we start to study verb patterns are based on this chart. Because a third-person verb, single male, has a certain form. A third-person dual male has a certain form. A third-person plural male, so qara'a, we study qara'a. Qara'a is he. Why is it he wrote the book? Qara'a. Qara'a. Qara'u. Qara'at. Qara'ata. Qara'na. Qara'ta. Qara'tuma. Qara'tum. Qara'ti. Qara'tuma. Qara'tunna. Qara'tu. Qara'na. So if you know this chart, and you know the damir, the pronoun that is associated with it, verbs will come easy, inshallah. So dama'ir are important. So know the chart. And then, once you've got the chart down in your mind and you understand the concept of it, then you can move into the dama'ir themselves. So huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu, nahnu. So once you know the form that it's in, and you try to remember, like, okay, I don't remember what nahnu means. But nahnu is the second word on the bottom of the chart. And I know the bottom of the chart is first person, and the second one is dual and plural. Okay, now I know what nahnu means that. Okay? So that's what it is. To help memorize, to know the meaning of the word and recognize it, you do that. And even when we go into attached pronouns, it's the same, they just look differently. Hu, huma, hum. Ha, huma, hunna. Ka, kuma, kum. Ki, kuma, kunna. Ya, na. So, kitabi, kitabuna. So that's how it works, inshallah. So that's as far as I would go, inshallah, today in terms of discussing the dama'ir. Next, so what I want you guys to do is read the chapter and memorize the dama'ir, and we'll test everyone next week, and we'll go through practice of the exercises and go into the next chapter, inshallah. Speaking of next week, how many of you will be able to attend or not going to have a problem with this? Just raise your hand. We will be able to. How about, so basically everyone. So we'll have class next week, inshallah. And inshallah we'll continue at 9:30 hopefully, inshallah I'll be on time. So next week, inshallah, the assignment, let's see what the assignment was. I'll send you guys an email tonight, inshallah. I don't have the syllabus with me right now. So I want you guys to study the dama'ir, memorize them, do the exercises on your own in class in the morning, inshallah. The first thing we'll do is review and do the exercises, and then we'll move to the next study, inshallah. And I think it may even be the discussion of sentences, but I may be wrong. So next week, memorize the dama'ir. I want you guys to go huwa, huma, hum, anta, antum, antum, blah, 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 etc. I want you guys to go like that. Have it in your head, because this is critical. The memorization of this chart will be critical for everything moving forward in terms of sarf, in terms of studying verbs. So please put effort, all your effort into this, inshallah. Any questions? Comments? Suggestions? Alright. Great, inshallah. So, we'll start our exercises in the morning of next week. Barakallahu feekum. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. We're only a few weeks away from starting our readings of Qasas al-Nabiyyin. I'll send you guys a link to an electronic copy of it. But you can also purchase it, and it's probably better to purchase it, or at least to have a physical copy of it so you can write notes and everything in it, inshallah. But purchasing is hard to find. You have to find in special libraries overseas and stuff like that. So I'll research that for you. Okay? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Ordinarily, I would have continued another half hour because that's your right, but we have other classes, I believe, here. No? But I'll let you guys take a break anyway. Everyone's like, no.